It's 10:01, and I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Village of Mount Sterling Financial Planning and Supervision Commission. Courtney, after your breath there, do you want to do a roll call?
You can do that, that'd be fine.
All right.
I'll make note.
Okay, Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Council President Pro Tem Flora
Here.
Auditor Hunter.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Ms. Oberst is excused. Mr. Craig.
Here.
And Ms. Snyder is here. So we have a quorum. And before we go any further, I think you've all had a chance to meet Mr. Ryan Craig, but we're happy to have you here
Thank you.
officially on the commission. He's Governor DeWine's designee, and feel free to pipe up any questions as we go along.
Will do.
We're pretty informal and also larger picture things that we can help you with.
Okay.
We're happy to have you here. Okay, emailed to you and also in front of you in hard copy are the minutes from August 13th, last time we met. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, if there is a motion to accept the minutes.
You have that motion?
Moved by the mayor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are passed. As presented. All right. To our section with the presentation by the financial supervisors. And I think Mr. Jim Putoff has a lot of work for us this morning.
Yes, we got a lot to cover. If you look at, first thing we have is the bank reconciliation for you to look at. You have that and set the next page, the cash summary together with it. At the end of the month, they did reconcile. The two reconciling items are carryovers from back during the 15-16 era, and now that their last audit report, it's out, right?
Yeah.
Is done. I think we will work to correct these items because those were errors that we can now, the $129 we could not reconcile, we're gonna write it off, but now we can do that. But in total, you will notice that the bank balance says $1,495,466.79. And on the cash summary, it's $1,495,575.79. The difference is $129. So the village is reconciling, and everything on this rec is a known item. So with that, on the cash summary, we'll look at that. The general fund ended the month of September with $503,785.99. So their general fund's doing very healthy now, after it had been negative. And then you just see the other funds. So at the end of the month, $1,495,000 and change. So the village has cash balances now.
On the adjustment, last night we discussed two. Is this one of the two?
Yes, it is.
And what happened to the other?
The 4,000 is not a reflection because it's, if you notice it on the bank reconciliation, there are two different reasons. One is only affecting the cash summary,
The
129.
The 4,000, that is outstanding checks back in 16 that have been
Yeah.
marked as clearing the bank, and they've never cleared the bank. So we've been carrying them as a reconciling item because
Right.
on the UAN system, you cannot go back and unmark those as not clearing the bank. So we're showing them they're considered outstanding checks on the rec. Is what still. We just got to go back, get a hold of who those checks went to, and make sure, do these village still owe money? Did they lose the check? If they didn't, we can take that, move it to unclaimed funds money, and let it sit for the required 5 years, and then it can be moved to the general fund.
Okay.
But we waited until all the audits related with everything part of that have been
Right.
completed. So,
Okay, very good.
so any other questions on the bank record cash summary? Okay, the next thing I have for you is the revenue status. Couple of items of interest, the the village has received all their property tax for the year and actually came in above what was estimated. So I'm assuming that's probably some delinquencies is what kicked it up above. So that's a positive. The municipal income tax, it's sitting at 659,000. We had 750,000 budgeted. I did talk to Rita. One of the reasons it's so high is their local company in town made their payment for 18's taxes in 19, and then they made an estimated payment for 19. So you had two large payments from one company. One was for 18, and then they made an estimate for 19. So that's why it's higher than expected. That's why we're sitting at 92% for the year. So, you know, that's probably not going to get that. So next year, the company will only have one payment, so.
When you get estimated tax like that, do you record this any differently? Or they're
No,
all-
they're just making an estimate, yeah, it's just income tax, they're making an estimated payment.
Okay.
Rita he processes all the refunds, so, during the first 4 months when people do their taxes, if they get any refunds, Rita will pay that out, and it just means what was collected for the month will be less because they paid refunds out,
Okay.
so.
And the fact that we started a new policy several months ago in a lot of, like a lot of small communities, we have a lot of people moving in and out, working in town, working out of town, and we started a policy where you have to sign a contract now, the homeowner does, so that everyone's aware of the REIT tax that you have to pay. And I think that that's been benefiting us past several months.
It's made a big difference too, what we're doing now, so.
And on the second page of the revenue status, you're gonna see under special items, 6,353. That is some more of the money collected from all the findings for recoveries from the special investigation. So they're still making their payments. Any questions on revenue status? Okay. The next group of pages is the appropriation status for the up through September. As of this time in September, the total appropriation should be sitting at about 75%. If you come down and you look through, you're going to notice a couple lines are sitting in the 90s or at 100%. Some of them, like dues and fees, you pay it once a year. It's 100%. It's a one-time payment. There is a couple lines that are a little high, and Courtney's looked into it, and there's been a couple. Medicare is often one, and it's a couple people got added under one line, they should have been under another. We're going to correct that, adjust it. So you got Medicare that's sitting a little high, and that falls under the council. So that we have some that are seem skewed, but it's because there's a couple misposted and put on lines. But overall, the village is sitting at 72%, and for on average, you should be at 75% for the year. And I will point out that on the last page, page 4, you come down to about 6 lines down, it says tax collection fees. That's the RETA tax collection fees. And you notice it's at 97%, while their collections are up above what's been expected. And so we will have changes coming for that, which we'll get to in a little bit, but revenue's up, your fees are up, so there'll be changes. I just thought that was important to point out.
Yeah, they do it on a percentage basis, don't they?
Yes, sir.
3%.
Yeah.
Is there any questions on some of these lines? questions? Okay, if you come to the next page, it says, report comments. This little page looks like this. The report on accounting methods, if you look, the village had 24. As of today, 18 comments have been cleared. 5 comments are in process and 1 comment has not even been touched. Under the accounting journals and ledgers, the one in progress is a policy, and at the next council meeting, they will be voting on that. So that one should be cleared in about a month. Under purchasing process, the one in progress is then and now purchase orders. And like I stated before, don't want to clear that until right at the end to make sure that there's not been any then and now. So that one will stay in process. The village hasn't had any then and nows besides what I think they had in one little emergency situation. Yes, that's okay. So we're good with that. Under inventory of capital assets, there's 2 in progress. There's a policy, which is going to council at their next meeting. And then the other one is working on an asset listing. Courtney has partially done. She's about a third to half of the way through getting all the assets recorded. So it just takes time, and when she gets that done, that one will be great to go. And then under recordings of official proceedings, there is 3 comments. One's been cleared. The second one, they are working on getting everything so, basically it's done. Courtney said it's done. It's just in a locked room that she doesn't have access to. And then the other comment that has not even been looked at is the Records Commission. The village has not had a meeting. That's been required by law to have 2 meetings a year. There hasn't been a meeting in almost 2
Are you
years.
talking about record retention?
Records retention, the Records Committee is supposed to have a meeting twice a
Right,
year.
right.
There hasn't been a meeting in 2 years.
Okay,
So they need to meet twice a year by
okay.
ORC.
Who's on that committee?
Low end and low end. My council person. But it's a committee of, you said committee.
I think it's whoever from council and probably a couple citizens. Or a
Okay,
couple
because I
council
only know
members.
of one low. I
Well, I
didn't know
think
there was
he's-
citizens involved.
Yeah,
Yep.
there is.
There
so-
is?
There is.
Is there actually citizens in place?
No.
Lowell?
No,
So Lowell's never took,
there's not been a report at your council meetings in the last 2
Okay.
years.
all right, we'll take care of that.
So that one, that's just, until
And
they
they're-
start having
they're
meetings,
to-
I can't.
they're to have meetings every 6 months?
Twice a
Twice a
year.
year.
Twice a year?
Yes,
Okay,
they
I
usually
thought it was-
about every 6 months. It's-
Okay. All right, someone told me once a year they had a meeting.
That's
but
twice.
Twice, okay, that's good. We'll take care of that.
So we're getting close on getting the comments cleared. Hopefully by the end of, within a month, we'll have 3 or more because they're policies. They've already been reviewed. It's, council's got to approve and accept them, so.
And then you start monitoring them.
Yeah, oh, yes, yes. So that's that. Any questions over their report comments? Mr. Perry, can I do this?
I'm good for right now.
Okay.
We'll get that full report to you, that report.
Okay.
And the last thing we have is a recovery plan. We need to update it for some changes. I've been through it, council approved it at their meeting. What I have, I've given you all a copy. This is a copy that I have highlighting in to make it easier to get through because there's a lot of small changes coming, and since the council's approved it, we have to bring it to the commission. So if you want to look at the numbers, turn to page 8. So page 8 is mostly revenues, and I wanted to point out, the only change in revenues is the municipal income tax. Sorry, I didn't have that one highlighted. We had 710,000 estimated, and with their collections, and after talking with Rhea, 750,000 would be more realistic. for now through the remainder of the forecasted year. So we flatlined it to 750,000 throughout the remainder of the forecast. We did show it as increasing about 1.3% each year, but after talking with them, 750,000 is probably about, unless they get a new business or two in here, that's about max for the village what it'll be. So we flatlined it out for the forecasted years at 750,000. And if we flip to the next page, page 9, down towards the bottom third, you're going to see a new expenditure lines not been before. It's community environment, that's planning and zoning. What it is, the village has a very old plat that was approved by council back in the 60s. And I think now they're wanting to do some work out there. Well, it needs to be updated to today's requirements for zoning and all that. So the village needs to hire an engineering firm and do extra work to get that brought up to proper codes, to today's standards. And since it's going to be an ongoing thing, they've got amounts. It's going to be a total between engineering services and other professional technical, about 11,400. So we just took that out for the year since it's going to be an ongoing thing. So that's totally new. It's never been in the forecast. It's just recently come up. So
And it's a piece of land?
it's a property, yes, within the village that back in 67.
1967.
It was approved for development, and nothing's happened, and now there's a developer, I guess, wants to do some work. So I'm sure the environmental standards and all that from 67 to now have changed quite a bit, so.
52 years, long time.
So, all the street widths and all that needs to be re-examined, so they're having a firm and a commission within the village to do that.
So is this not only to pay for that, but also how to implement those
Yes.
recommendations?
Yes, so
Yes. It was planted in the 60s. We had a developer coming in, and he, with the engineer, he wants to change what was planted. And since we're not engineers and we're not, that's not my profession, Courtney got a hold of the engineering company to come down, and he, for instance, he wants to do away with the street that's been planted. He wants to make the lot smaller so he can get more homes on them. So that's out of my range of expertise. So I told her to get a hold of the engineering company and have them come down, and they could sit down and have a meeting with these people along with me. And of course, they charge us money for that. So that's what that is. They'll determine, for instance, I think it was platted at, so many feet, and he wants the street to be 32, and that's where the discussion's at. So the engineer's gonna come down and say, no, this is what the community requires, and I'm gonna oversee that it's done that way. So that's what the money's there for.
Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised it's an annual expense.
Well, how long do developers take? And if it might not be needed, I don't know, so I'm going on a higher end just to play it safe to see how it flows through.
Well, they've been building Rhonda homes.
Well, there's another phase too. So that's,
Yeah.
there's not just
10
this
years.
plat, but there's another development that has come to us as well. So there may be additional engineering costs for the second development as well.
Is that normally a responsibility of the village, or does the developer share in the cost of that at all?
They are.
The develop-
Yes, they are. Yes, so there's a difference between a plat and a preliminary plan. Our commission for zoning and building has just been approved yesterday. So they're going to be actually confirming that our subdivision rules and regulations are followed. The engineer will come in when there has to be, like Jim said, EPA restrictions, permits, making sure that, the depth, inspections, when they start to develop and are meeting those, timeframes.
So there's that. Flip to the page 10. Council, you're gonna see right at the top, salary For the mayor, jumped up. A couple months ago, council voted, they approved a pay increase to the mayor for $1,000 a month. With the mayor being up for election in 2018, the new mayor taking office in 2020, will get the new salary. So that's factored in there at $12,000. They also approved that the mayor has the option to take insurance. Not knowing who the next mayor will be, if it's a single person or family, I went with the person that has family insurance, so I took a family plan. So when you look down, $20,350, right now, the way it stands, anybody at the village on the family plan, that's how much their insurance costs them. So I estimated it at the higher end in case I don't know. I know Mr. Martin, he doesn't need insurance, you go through the VA. They might not need it, but for this recovery plan, in case they get somebody, we're going with what, if, in case it happens, we have it. The other lines, that's just, OPER's increase, well, the salary increase, so that's increasing. Same with Medicare and Social Security. So we just increased those accordingly to the changes in the salary for the mayor. Then when you come down to the bottom half, under legislative activities, council approved pay increases for themselves. And this year you have 2 council members that are up for election. So I went, and the council gets, what is it? I forget.
A max of 450 a month.
A maximum of 450 a month, so I assumed the max for that. Now the president pro tem gets 600 a month, so I assumed the max for that in case one of the new council members becomes president pro tem. So I accounted for that. So for the next 20 and 21, it's maxed out at 15,600. After the 21 election, all new council members, so it goes up even more, up to 30,000 for the last 2 years, just for salaries for council and the president pro tem, once you factor in the changes. Then, of course, the OPERS, Medicare, and all those did increase, so I increased it by those percentages as well. So that's the salaries for that. And then just below the salaries, you're going to see a line for other professional and technical services codifications. They are bringing a company in to take all these policies and everything they did and put it in order and codify it and have it all together. So they said that was going to be about $8,000. So it should be a one-time deal to get that done. But now that we're getting all the policies created, it'd be nice to have a big one-time book to cap everything in. So that's page 10. And you flip over to page 11, down at the bottom, you're going to see income tax administration, the RITA fees. For 19, we are bumping that up from what we had because they're collecting more, so we bumped it up to 28,000. And then knowing that RITA takes 3%, we budgeted 750,000, where the RITA fees for the remainder of the forecast, the years, will be 25,000, just basing it on the revenue for the RITA fees. Page 12, this, you want to come down under other financing sources and uses. You're going to see a bunch of transfer lines. We'll talk about the first one. It says correct audit adjustments. A year and a half ago, when they had their 15-16 audit, there was a bunch of, if you council, the committee remembers, the village was putting some income tax money into the street fund, and the auditor said, no, it has to go to the general fund. So the committee approved taking that money. We did the audit adjustment, but we transferred the money back to the street fund so the fund would not go negative. Again, there's 56,000 that was left over from 17 that they were still doing. So audit said, move it to the street, move it back to the general fund. We don't want to hurt the street fund, so to transfer to move the money back, since they had already use that. So that's the correct audit adjustment. The council also, for the street fund, they want to do some potholes and repairs and all that, need about $12,000 to get some street work done. So, with their balances, I was okay with it, so I put that in there for 19 to have some street fund money to do some more repairs. And then you're gonna see the next transfer out is water fund for operations. The water fund is still cutting it close, and they need some money to help keep operating, and it works out to about $100,000 a year right now. Revenues are down a little bit, they're down some in the fund, and especially this year, their balance is sitting at $182,000, and January 1st, they need to make that payment of about $250,000. So we need to get money into the general fund for that by the end of the year to help cover the debt. And then just looking out, doing the forecast, they're going to need about $100,000 a year. So we're building that into the budget.
That's $500,000.
Over the next 5 years, yeah. Yeah. And then the final transfer, you're gonna see new system and meters. Courtney informed me that come July 1st, 2020, their current utility system that they're using for the recording the bills and all that will no longer be supported by the company. So they need to get a new software program. And she did contact the company, they can get a new program and meters, because they do have quite a few meters broken, and or they still have manual read meters and they want electronic. If they purchase the equipment in 19, they get about a 5 to 7% savings on discount on it. So we would like to go ahead and take advantage of the savings and let them get a new software program and some meters to replace damaged ones that are still manual read. Let's get them up to date so they don't have to go around and try to manually read numbers. So that's what that second $100,000 is for in the water fund.
Going to the water.
Going to the water fund, yes, and because come July 1st, if their system crashes, their computer system crashes, they aren't going to get support to fix it. So they basically they have to have one by July. It's like if you can save 5 to 7%, let's save them money now instead of bumping this up some more for 2020.
Is there an idea that the water fund will at some point reimburse the general?
It's a transfer, it'll probably be permanent, yes. You know, like right now, as for the 5 years out, this is what we know based on what we're seeing with the numbers. It could be less, I don't know. Like I said, the water fund is running behind on their collections.
This is the best advice from the auditor state's office to do.
Yes,
this.
yes, known on information we know, yes, this is our. I mean, we will continue to monitor and hopefully they get new meters and a new system and maybe it'll help, but I do know they need a new system by middle of next year, so.
On the 100,000 for the operations, what's the ballpark number for what the water operations are? In other words, how much is this 100?
Probably about 1/8 of their revenue. 'Cause
It's a
they're-
pretty
they're-
big amount then.
Yes, it is. They're running behind about 15–16% on collections.
What's the policy on, how long's the wait to shut them off?
The policy states that on the 15th of each month, the payment is to be paid in full. On the 16th of each month, they will get a 10% penalty. If they have not made payment arrangements with the water department, they are to be subject to shut off on the 1st of the next month. So they have 2 weeks to either pay it in full or set up a payment system or plan.
those up? Are those cutoffs up and collections down?
That's what we're kind of reviewing right now, with the auditor's, help, LGS's help. We're going to make certain that, that the usage is up, but the revenues are down. So,
Delinquencies have increased from the last time,
because of the increase that we placed on them
so
a year ago.
so delinquencies are up, so that doesn't help, but. So we are working with Courtney to look into that more detailed.
It's a struggle every day. A lot of people live week by week. That's the way it is today, especially in our community. And we do everything from sending people to London, Ohio for assistance, and set up payments, because shutting water doesn't get the water bill paid. You can shut all the water off you want, and it won't get paid. You have to try to work with the people to assure that the water and sewage that they use gets paid. And that's what we try to do every day in that water department. It's some people make bad choices and some people have bad luck. And we get all kinds of stories every day. With 750 approximately customers that we have. And, we don't like it, but it's just a fact. That's the way it is in here every day.
The Nazarene Church also has a policy too, if somebody gets behind and are low income, the Nazarene Church will help them pay 1 month of their water bill. They go to them. It's called what they call a citizen action for people, and they will they help with the water bills too.
So that's a lot of the that's the changes we have. Changes in one advice village, and some of them kind of have a developer come in, yes, let's update, because that's more residents, that more potential future income. And then the council just making changes that they had for their salaries is a bit of a hit too. And then just the water fund, we need to focus on those. Council needs to now, since you're having to support it, now let's figure it out.
So run us through the bottom line. Where
To the bottom line,
Yeah.
if you go to page 13, what's gonna happen there, these items on this page are, like here's the restitution being collected.
These are items we've seen before.
Yes, they're all seen before.
Yeah.
So at the end of 19, we are forecasting that the village won with 313,000 fund balance. And at the end of 20, it's 340. It goes back up, just not as fast as it was in the final recovery plan because of all the additional changes. So, it's instead of increasing a couple 100,000 a year, it's increasing 50,000 a year. But it's changes that have been made.
So are you saying next year that we don't forecast getting any of the money owed to us? Is that what
Well, it's hard to say, like Mr. Johnson, he owes so much, but he's sitting in jail. We get what we can, the village will get what they can get. If some of the other people, Mr. Neff, I know he's making payments, but it's sporadic if he stops making payment. It's hard to predict when people are gonna pay their restitution. So it'd be, you don't wanna rely on it.
nothing we can count on?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the one line, income tax to be allocated, remember the council did approve that they're taking, I think this year we're sitting at 5% of the income tax to be used for capital improvements. It's increasing up to 9%. That's why that number is going from 22 to 37.
Yeah.
So they are setting small percentage for capital improvements, so, you know, they, back when they first did the recovery plan, that was something that was in there, so they are restricting a portion of their,
Those are within the original plan.
yes, those are, that hasn't changed. I mean, the numbers changed a little, but that's because we changed the revenue, so.
I have the original plan here. What were our fund balances? You say they're not going up as fast.
Not going up as fast, no, and I have it in the other room, but. But it does.
Yeah, does that sound right, that they were to be more like $800 or $1 million?
Yes, but you know, you're paying an extra $100,000 out a year to the water fund. They've increased salaries, and that's something that's gonna be across the board, some additional other activities that they're wanting to, you know, that we've talked about.
But it's your recommendation that these are doable?
These are doable, I mean,
It makes
their
sense.
balances, even though it's a lot less than the original, the last recovery plan, they're still increasing their balances. Because, you know, they get, yes, they get money in for the streets and other than that, but, you know, that's a set amount as determined by the state for the taxes. And cost of things are going up, so they probably would have, asked for money to go to streets. But it was when they originally submitted stuff, they did have stuff to go to streets, but because of the water fund, we can't do everything. So, after talking with Courtney, you know, what we wanted to put towards streets each year now has to go to the water fund. 'Cause I originally-
Are we expecting an increase in street?
that's,
Because of
that's, that's not state, I don't know what the state gives in your permissive tax, gas tax, MDL, that's based on.
I thought I heard someone say that would, we would get more money
The
next year.
trustees
will.
do. yeah.
Pardon?
The village will get more money because of the increase in the gas tax.
Yeah.
So, yes.
We don't have any idea how much.
I don't have any documentation on that, but I'm sure there is something floating around.
Yeah, I heard that.
So I know this, yeah, there was other items on here when we first did it, but after looking at the entire village as a whole, some items came back off that the village wanted. So, you know, this is to keep the village going, you know, everybody didn't get what they wanted. Because they wanted stuff for the parks, they wanted stuff for the streets, and because of what is truly needed to keep the village going, the water fund was more important than some of the other items. We had to decide what was more important, and we do not want to fund trying to get a deficit. Because the water fund, you know, with their debt and all that, and the collections down, it would have been deficit probably by the end of the year, we can't have that.
I think I understand the water. The salaries came about because of
That was
Here.
administrator, the hire,
no council.
Council.
and council.
They had another village in the county increase their rates as another village, and some council here decided, hey, if they can, we can.
And he said council, he didn't say mayor. Had nothing to do with that.
Well, I think it's just a matter of fiscal emergency, and they're not gonna be able to do the streets now, right?
That was my-
Yeah,
Cutting into
yeah,
the
they were
street.
cutting other things out, you know, and I can't control council.
That was my argument.
So,
So has something been cut in there then, expenditure?
no.
Well, how did we do that? Because the revenues are about the same.
Revenues went up, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if you look, their balances at the end of the 5 years wasn't over $1 million.
Yeah.
So, you know, now at the end of the 5 years, it's 472,000.
And you feel that's
That's
not
still,
a
yeah.
fund balance?
Yes, I mean, we're giving 500,000 to the water fund over the next 5 years for operations. Yeah, salaries went up, and that's $20,000 a hit, you know, once you get to everybody's new council each year.
And the insurance option for the mayor is $23,000.
Yeah, insurance for the mayor. Now, if you have a mayor that doesn't take it, there's a $23,000 savings. You know, I went to the top end because I don't know, I'm taking my best guess, and it does work.
Well, that, you said that 100,000 is automatic for the next 5 years.
It's in, yeah, it's not, you don't have to do it January 1st, you can wait till the end, it's just, you don't want the fund, we're making sure that the water fund has it. If collections come up and it's not needed, you don't have to do it.
Right.
No, you don't have to
So
do it,
it's
but we
not
gotta get
automatic.
it in the plan,
Right.
because we don't want to come back in
Okay.
2 months and say, hey, we need to redo the plan because we didn't look ahead.
It's not an option anymore.
No, it's not mandatory, let's be fully prepared. We don't want to keep updating this every couple of months.
It's proactive.
So that's why we're doing it, and they're still ending each year, you know, they're still increasing their fund balance. So it's a good plan, it's working, it still works. You're not gonna have $1 million at the end of 5 years, but, you know, you're still positive, and you're still able to keep operating.
Any other comments?
I would agree with you that it bothers me about the salary increases, even though we don't have control over the council, but until they get out of fiscal emergency, I don't think that was very responsible.
It was done in open council session. Everyone had a right to their opinion and remark, and my opinion was it wasn't, I feel the same way you do, it wasn't proper. I don't think it was, now's the proper time. Maybe next year, but I don't vote.
But did you put together this plan though and took it to council?
I did, pardon?
Yeah, well, yeah, he took it to council. Like I said, we talked with Courtney and had ideas, and, you know, it's the best plan we have. And with council doing what they did, we have to factor it in, so.
Right.
Council approved the increases in the salaries before Billy and Courtney and Jim started on the new recovery plan. So they had already taken action and passed that, so.
But that was outside the plan that they were to be living in. with that.
Right, but those increases don't take effect until a newly elected council person. So we would have had to update the plan annually anyway, so it would have been incorporated in next year's plan regardless.
Well,
because
but they should have lived within, they could have lived within the plan though, it's a 5-year plan. They,
No, it has to be updated every year, so
Right.
any action
Which
they
is
took.
March.
Right,
March of 2020.
I'm just thinking what the outside public would think. I mean,
I
they
know.
saw that.
It wasn't good. Good perception.
That's what I would think, yeah.
Well, the commission can't take that piece out. We can only approve the new plan or not approve the plan. And if we don't approve the plan, then we need to state our reasons of concern and then send it back to the council, to the mayor, for their reconsideration. And supposedly modification, I suppose. April, do you have any advice at this point where we are on this? If we have a concern as a commission?
that is up to you as chair. We would not, if we did not think this was a viable plan, we would have not allowed it to move forward and bring it to the commission. So from our objective as financial supervisors, it is a viable plan. I can't control the issue that you're having with the raises. I can't control that.
But again, we can control it because the plan didn't have the salary increases built in. They did something outside the plan.
But it did not impact the current year plan. it's future years. The changes for the current year are other things, and then built in the salaries.
Any other comments from? Observations?
So this is the recovery plan, we just need the committee's vote on it, and then after the decision, if it is approved, I have the signed copy from council, I need the committee's signatures on it too as well.
Well, I think we need to state that if we do go ahead and approve this, that it is with concern about for an entity that is in fiscal emergency, that raising salaries is highly unusual. That's usually the first place that a community keeps the status quo, that they try to get their expenditures rearranged to live within their revenues. And I do have a concern for this community because you're supplanting some money that otherwise could be used for things that would benefit them in another way. I'm not stating any of this as against any people receiving salary increases per se, but rather just as the priority for the community. I guess I find that concerning. On the other hand, I do know that you need to make some adjustments in a major way, water being the primary one. So, you know, with these fund balances, we'll just about cut them in half.
But they're still increasing, and it is doable, I mean, unless, you know, natural disaster wipes the village out, you know.
Well, is there a motion to accept this revised financial recovery plan?
I will make a motion to accept the financial recovery plan that's presented to us by April today.
Well, this is the plan that was presented by you to council.
Yes. That they brought to us today, we should have said.
Yeah. Is there a second? Any other comments before we take a vote? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Council President Pro Tem Cortez?
Yes.
Auditor Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder? Yes. All right. Plans approved.
Can I go ahead and pass this around and get signatures while we're?
Vote was 6.
Or you can use whatever, I just.
Jim, you'll send me a copy of that then.
Yes, do you want a signed copy of the signed?
Okay, report of mayor.
I have a short report. to April, Jim, Courtney. And I hope before long, with the Gallagher's financial emergency and we'll be moving ahead as a village on our own financially. And that's all I have.
Yeah. Oh, my report, first I want to thank Courtney, for she works really hard at this, and so does Jim. And for council itself, we've been very busy with nuisance and abatement. We've gone over the neighborhoods of a lot of houses and stuff with properties. Some have been, you wouldn't believe what they would look like, but our policies have been very strong with our mayor working hard in our committees. And we've seen a lot of progress from this summer to this fall. And you can see the difference in the neighborhoods now. They look a lot better. People are a little bit more proud of the properties. So that makes me feel good and working through the village. And also, we've been looking into selling water. We've been checking on some dairy farms about selling water. And so we're in that situation. So I hope that helps down the road. And so that we can get that started. And like I said, now we just got to, with winter coming on now, we're getting prepared for the salt and all that stuff. And I just read here the word snow, but I know it's going to be mentioned. And we're preparing for that situation. Then the pothole situation has improved by 90%. We had some streets in the Pleasant Ridge area where you just couldn't even get through without a pothole. We've come, and we're probably about 90% in that situation, 85, 90%. And that's my report.
Is that selling of water something that could be?
It's a
significant?
possibility. The mayor and Courtney's been having some meetings, and I'm hoping it comes through. And so
We've
it's,
actually been selling bulk water. We've thinking outside the box. We produce a lot of water and we don't sell it all. So how can we justify? So we're selling bulk water now. Matter of fact, we passed an ordinance last night creating a rate, a standard rate for bulk water that's picked up over. We've been approached by, there's a dairy farm 3 miles outside of town. And we've been approached, I just got the bad look. We've been approached about our water. So we're discussing, and 1,200 head of cattle drink a lot of water. So we're in discussions now, how to best serve the one of 2 dairy farms out of town. What we're doing is, when I go to London, I talk to David Kale about, for instance, a data center is interested in moving here. It doesn't employ a lot of people, but it uses a lot of electricity and uses a lot of water to cool. So those are the type of industries that I talk to David about. Those are the issues that we get together and try to think outside the box. Try to compensate somehow this water department. Our biggest water user, of course, they're going in a different direction. They're doing away with part of their manufacturing that uses a lot of water. The water usage is down in the millions of gallons. And a new plant that just opened up 4 or 5 months ago, which cleans containers, shipping containers. I just assumed that they was going to use a lot of water. Well, they would have if they hadn't put recyclers in there. They spent their money on recycling the water. We went out there several times thinking, this is not right. You know, you're cleaning all these skids and you're using $300 worth of water. So we went out 2 or 3 times and And they said, look, we've put recyclers in, you know, we're not gonna have a really high water bill. So, we're working, we don't always get on Facebook and say what we're doing, but trust me, we're looking outside the box to compensate for the water department.
We keep a constant vigil, hope there's this one place, just like the mayor said, if there's opportunities, we're gonna try to find them opportunities, and that's what we've been doing. And these big dairy farms, just like the mayor said, are gigantic, if we can get this connected, that would really help Walmart.
Okay, well, thank you for your report. Are there any other questions? Under the mayor? Council President? Well, our next meeting date, I think if we could look at December 10th at 10 a.m.
Tuesday, is that Tuesday?
It's a Tuesday,
It's a
yeah.
Tuesday, yes.
Okay.
All right, let's plan on that.
Troy Quinlan will be the designee from the treasurer's office moving forward.
Oh, okay, very good.
I will be out of town, but I will send, some items.
Okay, great. Just send along and I'm sure you're. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Have that motion?
All right.
Second.
Mayor, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much, everybody.
I know.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know, especially when you're that age and stuff.
Oh, very good. I do that. Thank you.
Like,